This past week, we've been rolling out results from our latest Talk Business and Politics-Hendrix College poll. Today, we do a deeper dive into two critical groups of voters who'll be influential in this year's elections: voters who claim to be independent and voters motivated by the issue of abortion. Let's begin with independent voters. They constitute about 30% of the overall voting population in Arkansas. Republicans approximately 38%, Democrats around 25% of the voting base. Well, exactly what is the profile of an independent voter in Arkansas? I posed that question to our polling analysts, Dr. Barth and Robert Coon.
Over the past several election cycles as a whole, when it comes to independents, we've seen them kind of 2-to-1 margin, 3-to-1 margin siding with Republicans. Right now, independents are not doing that. I think they still have some preference for Republicans. If you look at how they view compared to Biden, there's a slightly, they don't really like either one, but they like Trump a little bit more than they like Biden, and they generally align, on the Republican side of some of the ballot races. So they still lean Republican a little bit on as it relates to independents, but not the margins that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think that we are starting to see some change in who the independents in Arkansas are, in that, we saw a period of time where, in all reality, most independents were truly Republicans who just had not yet taken that step to the point of identifying as Republicans. I think we're now at a point that where the state has realigned enough that most of those independents have really left the independent ranks. And so what we have are actually more pure independents in a lot of ways. And in fact, in some cases, they actually may be independents who are now very open to supporting Democratic candidates or more progressive candidates, especially on social issues. And that's where we do see some real distinctiveness in this group of voters, and that they tend to be distinctly concerned about changes to abortion laws, the overturn of the Roe decision. They tend to be more supportive of legalization of recreational marijuana. They also are skewing to Chris Jones in the governor's race, but they're staying Republican in the other races.
Independents right now, when we kind of look at the crosstabs of our surveys that we recently did, they're a little bit younger than the average Arkansas voter on the whole. They have a slightly higher college education achievement level, 42% compared to kind of where we saw 36% was our weighting. So, they're a little bit more male than female, which is interesting. We've kind of seen women over time becoming more aligned with the Democratic Party. And so when you look at the Democratic breakdowns, you see a higher percentage of women there. So, if I was going to sum up in a nutshell, a little bit more male, younger, higher education.
What seems to be a particular driver right now among independents is a real animosity towards Donald Trump. That's the way in which this group is kind of standing out.
We also asked a question of voters in this last poll related to the issue of abortion, which has become a state determination after the overturning of Roe v. Wade earlier this year. 43% support Arkansas's current abortion law, which only allows an exception to save the life of the mother. 50.5% think the law should be changed in this latest poll. So we asked that 50.5% if they thought it should be easier to get an abortion in Arkansas. 92% said yes. That could mean allowing a limited number of exceptions, such as rape and incest, or it could mean no restrictions on abortions. So how might the issue of abortion motivate voters in this election cycle? Again, we turn to Barth and Coon.
On abortion, what we are seeing is there are some groups of voters, at least in Arkansas, who really want to move away from some of the real severe limitations that are currently in place in Arkansas law. And those folks who want a liberalization of the state's abortion regulations, tend to be very young, the 18 to 29-year-old group. They tend to be pretty well educated, college-educated voters, much more likely to want that change. They also do tend to be women. We also see some interesting partisan dynamics here as well, is that, we do have clear partisan polarization on this. Almost all Democrats, they want liberalization of the issue. The vast majority of Republicans want to keep things as they are, although that number is not nearly as high as those Democrats who want to change. And so even Republicans, a subset of Republicans, show a willingness to change the current standards. What's quite interesting is the independents, a healthy majority of them do support change to more expanded access. Now, we don't know how far they would want to go with that. We didn't really ask that kind of nuanced question, but we at least know that they have some real concerns about how severe the current limitations are.
I think whether they would vote differently is really a question of, are they a single issue voter? I think as you look at that group that is seeking change, you have a larger percentage of Democrats, you have a larger percentage of independents there, but you also have, at least in the teens level of Republicans that are seeking that change. Now, what we don't know is, when we talk about change, a term, is that something that's nibbling around the edges and changing the types of exceptions that are out there, or is it wholesale change, a number of weeks or even without restrictions? So it's a broad swath. I think it really just depends on, are there single issue voters out there? I think if there are, yeah, you could have people, make a different decision than they have in the past.
Dr. J. Barth and Robert Coon obviously going out to split some wood later today. We are back with more right after this.